Hey, what's going on? Todd Shaw with another episode, of the Sawdust Dude. Appreciate you watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, how do you change that blade on that crazy 3-wheel Inca bandsaw? Stay tuned. I'm going to show you how you do it. Hey, you know a little bit about the Inca bandsaw? I've got another video. You want to check that one out. It kind of gives you the ins and outs, and maybe a little history about it too. But, you know, these guys are still around. They're great bandsaws. They're real unique because they have 3 wheels instead of 2 wheels like 95% of the bandsaws out there. And with this one, you cut on the left side, and most bandsaws you cut on the right side. So they're unique, but they are awesome. And in this video, we'll go over what size blade you need, how do you get it to track right, how to do some other adjustments on it, and we'll talk a little bit about bandsaw blades. So let's start off with that. Hey, so when you get your bandsaw blades, we're going to talk about several different aspects of the bandsaw blade, but when you get it, it'll be coiled up like this. And how do you get it to uncoil safely without it scratching you or you throwing it on the floor and letting it bounce all over the place? Well, don't do that. Just kind of take it in the cup of your hands like this and let it kind of uncoil just like that. And it's that simple. So don't throw it on the ground, because you don't want to bend the blade and you don't want to get your teeth kind of cattywampus, as we say in the South. But anyway, you don't want them to get messed up. So you don't want to bend your teeth and get one out of whack. It does make a big difference. So don't bend it. Don't force it and put a crimp in it. How do you coil this back up? Say, you know, this is like a 1/2-inch blade, and so you got a 3/8, or you want to go up to a 3/4 blade. What do? How do you hang this? And most guys hang them up like that. They kind of get in the way. And the easiest way is to rest it on the. You basically take the palm of your hand is up, and I'm gonna take the arch of my foot. I'm not gonna stomp down on it, but I'm gonna just hold it down, and I'm going to take my palm and twist it inside like this once, twist it again, and push down at the same time. I'm going to remove my foot from the bear trap. And so from here, and it's just that simple. You can kind of bounce it, and I take my middle finger and my thumb, bounce it so it doesn't uncoil in my face. And then you can store your bandsaw blades. All right, so let's talk about this. What type of bandsaw blade do I buy? What do I look for? Well, on the Inca 710, it takes a 105-inch blade. I found out the 105-inch blade, and so that's if you started from A and went all the way around the blade, you would come up at 105 inches. Another way to get that number is that if we pop the cover, and let's talk about that. Just to pop the cover on this, you just mash or press the little button down at the bottom, grab the edge of the cover, and then lift up. And it's just like that. Oh, look, there's a message. Yeah, and so that gets you to the inside of the blade. Now, obviously you want to unplug the saw when you go changing the blade. Duh, okay, so anyway. So if I took a string and went from here and all the way around all 3 wheels, you know, I would come up with a number, say maybe even 106 inches. But because of this adjustment back here, I can take this 3rd wheel and move the saw where I need to be. And so I found out that the 105-inch blade for the Inca 710 is an easy blade to find. That's why I went with it. This may be 106 inches, but you know that like I said, that 1 inch there, I can adjust for it. So the 105-inch blade is the easiest to find. So when you're looking at a bandsaw blade, you'll have 3 numbers up there. The first one is the length, and like I said again, 105 inches. The second number is the width of the blade. Now we'll talk about that in just a second. The 3rd number that you see will be followed by 3 letters, TPI, and that stands for teeth per inch. And when you purchase a circular saw blade, it'll have a 60 or a 40 or an 80 or 120, and that's how many teeth are on the entire blade. The more teeth, the finer the cut. On a bandsaw blade, you got 105 inches, they're not going to tell you there's 3,472 teeth. And so they just do it by the inch. So it's teeth per inch on that. So The more teeth per inch, the finer the cut. Now, I'll get into the width part next, as far as how wide the blade is. And people say, hey Todd, what type of blade should I buy? Well, we're going to get into two categories here, but you asked me what blade should I buy, and I'm going to come back with a question is, what type of work are you going to do with your bandsaw? Now, you can use your bandsaw right here now, and I've probably got like a 1/4 inch blade on here. And so I was doing more scroll type work. And so I was doing radius cuts, making different Christmas projects and things. So I needed a small blade. The wider the blade, you know, you're not going to be able to make a real tight radius. The blade won't allow you to do that. So when you have a small width, a low number, 1/8 of an inch, 3/16, your bandsaw really kind of turns into a scroll saw. Now, if you're going to do some resaw work, in other words, you take a piece of wood like it's 6/4, which is roughly 1.5 inches, and you want to rip that down to 3, you have 2 3/4 pieces. Well, you may use a wider width blade, you know, something a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch blade. But I want to tell you something here that'll blow your mind a little bit. I can actually take a 3/16 blade and I can do resaw work with it as well. And now I want to share something with you that I've learned over the years. That if my bandsaw is set up correctly, I can actually take a 3/16 inch blade and do resaw work with it. Now, it's not big bulky stock, but I was making these little beer bottle openers for Christmas. This is a little glue up, and I'll have another video about this that you can check out. And they were a little too wide for the grip of my hand. Well, I set up with my 3/16 and I did a resaw, and you can see how thin and flimsy that piece is. I didn't have to put on a big wide blade. That because my bandsaw is set up correctly, and I'm going to show you how to do that if you stay tuned for the whole video. Because it's set up correctly, you can do resaw with smaller blades too. Second part of the what type of blade do I need for this kind of work? Well, you know, there's really 3 types of teeth on a bandsaw. There's a regular tooth pattern, which is like a general purpose saw blade. And probably 90% of the blades in my shop are just a regular tooth bandsaw blade. There is also a hook tooth blade. It's more for thicker wood. It has a deeper gullet. You got the teeth on a bandsaw, and that little valley in there is called a gullet. That's important to know. You'll need to know that term here just a little bit when we change out the blade. So they have a deeper gullet on those, and so the hook tooth, the teeth have more of a rake to them, which is more of a degree in them. And so it kind of moves the debris out a little bit more. And the third, you have regular, you have hook tooth, and the third type of teeth on a bandsaw blade is called a skip tooth. And that's really, really good for doing resaw work. But like I said, 90% of the time, I just use a regular old saw blade, even on my resaw. You find yourself ripping a piece of stock doing a resaw, and it starts gumming up, and you got to kind of pull it out and try the other way. You're running shims in there. I've seen guys do that before, and it's like a couple different reasons why that happens. They're using a regular blade on a species of wood that's just kind of bad for clogging up on you. You need a skip tooth blade for your resaw on that particular application. Also, it could be your blade's just dull and you need a new blade on there. So regular tooth, hook tooth, and skip tooth. But go with the regular. So how do you change out a blade on an Inca 710 bandsaw? Well, a 3-wheel bandsaw obviously is different than a 2-wheel bandsaw. So any other videos you watch on a 2-wheel, it really does not apply. Some principles will, but this is just such a different animal. So one of the first things you do, number one, is unplug. Okay, so no problems there. There's 2 on this little tracking bar here for my fence. 2 knobs here. I'm just going to slide that to the side. You don't have to take it off. I just need to clear out this alley right here so I can get my blade out. I've got this little cover here. I flip that up. I've got a handle here on the back. I'm going to take it, turn it counterclockwise, and you can see the blade, the tension goes off. I take my hand, I bump it in like that, and then I can take my blade off. And just simply, this gets a little tricky here because of that, and you just very carefully slide that out. Then I'm ready just to take my blade, turn it once, turn it twice, drop it down, take my fingers, do like that, and I'm ready to store my blade now. So I put that aside. Say I want to put a bigger, wider blade on there because I want to do some resaw work. And I take my blade and I just unfold it, boom, and there it goes. Now, I need to make sure that my teeth are facing down from in here because that's how a bandsaw cuts, with the teeth facing down. If it is not down, very carefully just kind of flip it inside out and do your best not to bend that blade, okay? So I'm going to take it and just the reverse process. I'm going to feed it through here. I'm going to put it on the top wheel, get it past that little tab right there, put it on the top wheel. I put a little tension on it. I'm going to feed it through the bottom and then over here on the back blade. Now, what I want to do is this. I've got my bearings here, and this is when I talk about setting it up properly, I want to make sure that my guides are out of the way. And so I've got some little set screw spots over here, and I'm just going to slide these back out of the way. Now on my guide bearings, the ones on the side are called the guide bearings, and the back is called the thrust bearing. I've got an upper and a lower on the Inca 710. Now I want to tell you something about when you use an older piece of equipment. I call it the Frankenstein method. This is obviously a Swedish-made piece of equipment, and obviously it would have, I use the word obviously too much. This is a Swedish-made equipment, so it came with metric size nuts and bolts and Allen set screws and all that other good stuff. But over the years, because of parts and availability, I call it the Frankenstein method. It's got a little bit of everything, so to adjust my bearings, I have to have a standard and a metric, and this set works better than that set. But it's important that you get those guides out of the way, because when I talk about it has to be set up properly, I'm going to show you why now. So there's no metal touching metal ever with a bandsaw blade. If you want to ruin a bandsaw blade, metal on metal. But what I want to do, I want to get my bandsaw blade, the gullet and the teeth. Really, the gullet is going to be in the center of the tire. Because your tire does have a radius to it, you want that gullet, and so the gullet and the teeth are really riding on the highest part of that wheel to give those teeth some support so they don't bend. So I'm going to slide with my hand so the gullet is in the center. And that way my guides are out of the way and I can freely adjust my bandsaw blade. I've got it where I want it, and really I go off the back tire here. I start spinning this back clockwise till it's tight. And then I'm going to give it a spin and make sure that you only go from like 2 to 7 like that. You don't want to get your finger over here and pinch it in. And I'm going to keep spinning. And now I notice that on the back, my blade is starting to go to the back of the wheel. Now on most bandsaws, this is where the difference is. You have to adjust this wheel on the back. On the Inca, there is a knob on the back. When I twist this knob clockwise, it moves the blade away or to the outer edge. So clockwise this way, it moves the blade out. So now that my blade is kind of riding towards the back of the wheel, I need to move it so that gullet and the teeth are right in the center. And really the gullet, the lowest part of the gullet, really needs to be in the center. So my blade's not real tight yet because I'm not where I want to be. So it's still got some tension on it, and I'm not pressing real hard on it. But I'm going to start very slowly. I'm going to twist away from me in a clockwise fashion and spin. And give it a good spin. A little bit more, and we'll sneak up on it. Now that blade's starting to move, making sure that my bearings are out of the way. As soon as you hear metal against metal, that's never a good sign on a bandsaw blade. I need to move it a little bit more. Now I've got my blade tracking where I want it to. Now I'm just going to twist this knob on the back. It tightens my blade. Give it a spin. Still looking good. And I'm going to take my blade and just where when you touch it, it will go down about 1/8 of an inch. I'm not pressing hard, but when I touch it and I can get it to drop about 1/8 of an inch, that's a good tension on this blade. Like I said, you're gonna have to play around with your whole tracking and on these things. This particular one is a little persnickety, and I will shoot a video here real soon because I found some new tires for my wheels that will fit this saw, and I'll shoot a video on that. Also, make sure you check out the other video about this, just kind of the general concept of the Inca saw that I have. And like I said, follow us and do all that other cool stuff. Appreciate you doing that. So I got my saw where I want to be. And so that's the first part of doing a proper setup. I never know which camera to look at, right? Now the next step is really, really crucial. Now we're going to set up the bearings, and it's really not that hard, but the thing that you need to remember, you don't want your bearings actually touching the bandsaw blade. They're just guides, and think of them that way. So when you're doing a resaw or you're doing a cut, you can hear those bearings start spinning, and that's just kind of keeping your saw blade where it needs to be. They're just guides, and that's it. So you don't want them rubbing against your blade constantly, because that will cause that will cause your blade to wear prematurely, and we don't want that. So from here, my side bearings are just real simple. I'm going to take them and I'm going to move them all the way up to the deepest part of the gullet. So I'm going to take it so that my side bearings, my guides here, are right at that gullet. And so that's how I adjust that one. And then I'll just tighten that up. My thrust bearing in the back, I'll bump it against my blade and just ever so slightly, about 1/8 of an inch, back it off and tighten that up. I'll do this for the top and down below as well. Okay, I've got everything set up. I get a nice little spin. I don't hear metal against metal. I know I've said that a bunch. That's cool. All right, I take my little door here. I flip that over. I take my panel. 2 little tabs go on the 2 little tabs on the top. Put the top on that way. Pop the bottom on, give it a little tug, it's good. Move my guide back over, tighten it up. Now we got to take it for a test drive. There you go. There's a resaw on that. Looking good. So, that's it. Hey, cool deal. I appreciate you watching another episode of The Sawdust Dude. Check out my other videos, and I will see you real soon. Oh, yeah. Appreciate you.